The Jordan Show on YouTube.
All right. Ever heard of Occam's razor?
I feel like I've seen it on like a meme or something.
Exactly. You probably have. But today, we're doing a deep dive.
Deep dive, nice.
We're going to figure out what it really means.
Okay, yeah, I'm interested.
Where it applies, where it doesn't, and what it means for you, the listener.
Love it. Let's get into it.
So this all comes from a 14th century friar named William of Occam.
Okay, so not exactly who you'd think of for like a groundbreaking mental model.
Nope, not at all. But this friar, he gave us this incredible principle,
Occam's razor.
Occam's razor.
And it's not really about finding the absolute truth.
Right.
It's more of a guiding principle, especially in today's world.
Yeah, there's so much information out there.
So much information, exactly.
So would you say it's like a mental shortcut?
Yeah, kind of. Think of it like those rules of thumb.
Oh, yeah.
That we use to make decisions faster, especially when things get, a little complicated.
Makes sense.
Those are actually called heuristics.
Oh, okay. Heuristics.
And if you're someone who's always learning,
Like our listener.
like our listeners, exactly, they are super valuable.
So after this deep dive, you're probably going to start seeing Occam's razor
I
everywhere.
bet it's going to be like, oh, there it is again.
Right. So let's unpack it. The classic definition
Okay.
is the simplest explanation is usually the best.
Seems pretty straightforward, huh?
Yeah. At first glance, it does.
But there's nuance here.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's not about oversimplifying everything.
Got it.
It's more about cutting out unnecessary assumptions.
Okay, so we're not just going for the easiest answer.
Exactly. We always have to let the evidence guide us,
Evidence first.
not just our desire for a neat and tidy answer.
It's like that example from the source material
Okay, which one?
about your car not starting.
Oh, yeah.
We've all been there.
Right. Absolutely.
The car won't start and you immediately think it's a curse.
Or some crazy mechanical failure.
Right. But it's probably just a dead battery.
Exactly.
Simplest explanation.
We jump to the most dramatic conclusion,
Every time.
when the simplest answer was right there in front of us the whole time.
Totally.
Yeah.
So we kind of get the gist of the razor itself.
Yeah, we've got the basics.
But where is this thing actually useful? It can't just be for, philosophers, can it?
No. Occam's razor shows up in some really surprising places.
Oh, really? Like where?
Well, for example, science, medicine, even everyday communication.
Wow. Okay. That's a pretty wide range.
Yeah, for sure.
And the sources we have for this deep dive, they give us some amazing examples.
Oh, can't wait to hear them.
Let's start with science.
All right, science.
What do we have there?
Well, think about the discovery of DNA.
Okay, DNA.
Specifically, its double helix structure.
That's a big one.
That wasn't just about data,
Right.
It was about finding the simplest, most elegant model possible.
To explain how genetics work.
Exactly. How genetic information was stored and transmitted.
That's amazing.
Classic Occam's razor in action.
So it helps scientists choose between, competing theories.
You got it.
And the simpler one, the double helix, turned out to be right.
Exactly. It's about favoring explanations that are both
Elegant.
elegant, yes, and powerful in explaining things.
That makes sense.
And this isn't just for the scientists themselves.
Right.
It's valuable for anyone trying to understand those discoveries.
So, it helps us cut through the complexity.
The filter, yeah.
A filter for understanding.
Helps you focus on the essential parts of a breakthrough.
I like that. Okay, what about medicine?
Medicine, oh, that's a good one.
How does, a 14th century friar's idea help doctors today?
Well, let's say you have a patient with a bunch of symptoms.
Okay.
Fever, fatigue, sore throat.
That sounds rough.
Yeah, doctors use Occam's razor to consider the most likely explanation first, so they're not jumping to the worst case scenario right away. Right, they look for the most likely explanation.
Maybe it's just the flu.
Exactly. Why assume the patient has 3 separate unrelated things going on?
That would be a lot.
Yeah. Keep it simple to start.
But isn't that kind of risky sometimes?
How so?
What if it's something more complex, something rare?
That's where that whole tool, not a rule idea comes in.
Ah, okay.
Simplicity is the starting point.
A good starting point.
If the evidence points to something more complex, a rare disease or something, then they adjust their approach.
So it's like a compass.
Ooh, I like that.
It gives you a direction, but you still have to look around.
Yeah, and make sure you're on the right path.
Exactly.
And that actually brings us to another area where Occam's razor is helpful.
Oh, which is
Yeah.
technology.
Technology, really?
Yeah, engineering, computer programming, all of that.
Wait, so computer programmers are channeling their inner friar.
Kind of. Think about it. In software, a clean, straightforward algorithm.
That gets the job done with less code. That's generally better.
Better than like a super complicated one.
Way better. Much easier to work with.
But doesn't that risk oversimplifying things? Like, aren't there times when a more complex solution is actually needed?
For sure. For sure. Like, what about performance or security?
Exactly. Sometimes you need those extra layers.
Right. You bring up a great point. There are absolutely times when complexity is justified.
Okay, good. So it's not a hard and fast rule.
Nope. It's about finding that that sweet spot
Between,
between efficiency and clarity.
ooh, okay. Kind of like choosing the right tool for the job.
Exactly. Like you wouldn't use a hammer to screw in a light bulb.
Makes sense.
And this whole principle of clear thinking,
Yeah,
it's relevant to you, the listener, no matter what field you're in.
that's a good point.
Whether you're building software or just trying to understand how technology works, Occam's razor can really help you cut through the noise.
This actually reminds me of something that happened on our podcast.
Oh, really? What happened?
We were working on a new segment, and it just got so complicated.
Oh, no.
Too many bells and whistles, too many moving parts.
Sounds like a mess.
It was. So how do we apply Occam's razor?
I don't know. Tell me.
We took a step back
Okay.
and stripped it down
Stripped it down
to the bare essentials. We focused on clarity and simplicity.
Gotta go.
And you know what? It ended up being one of our most popular segments.
Oh, wow. So sometimes less really is more.
Sometimes it absolutely is.
And that's like a perfect example of how this principle can be applied beyond technical fields.
Right. It's not just about code.
It's about clear thinking, period.
It's relevant to anyone who wants to communicate more effectively.
Definitely.
Right. No matter what you're doing, writing a report, designing a presentation, or just explaining something to a colleague, clear and concise communication is key.
It's essential.
And Occam's razor can help us achieve that.
It helps you cut through the clutter, get to the heart of the matter, and present it in a way that's understandable and impactful.
So we've gone from the cosmos to computers, from medicine to, well, microphones.
That we're talking into right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It seems like Occam's razor has some serious range,
Serious range. Yeah.
but are there places where it falls short?
That's a good question.
Can we rely on it too much?
That's where we get into the limits of simplicity,
Okay, the limits.
which we'll explore in a moment. Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
It is. So let's talk about those danger zones.
Okay, danger zones.
When does simplicity stop being helpful
Right.
and actually start leading us astray?
Well, one of the biggest things to remember is that the simplest explanation
Yeah.
isn't always the right one,
Okay, that makes sense.
especially when you're dealing with systems that are like inherently complex.
So we shouldn't just blindly apply simplicity everywhere.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
Think about climate change, for example.
Okay, yeah. Climate change.
It's such a multifaceted issue.
It really is.
So many factors at play. Trying to oversimplify it to just one cause or one solution, that would be a huge mistake.
Right, because we need to acknowledge that complexity
Absolutely.
to even begin to find solutions.
Exactly. It's like
It's like what?
trying to understand a car engine.
Oh, yeah.
Only looking at one spark plug,
Yeah, that's not going to give you the full picture.
not even close. And this leads to another limitation of Occam's razor.
Which is?
Well, the idea of simplicity itself can actually be pretty subjective.
Oh, that's interesting. Explain that a little more.
Sure. What seems simple to one person, like an expert in their field,
Yeah.
might be super complex to someone who's just starting out.
Oh, for sure.
So that simple explanation might go right over their head.
Yeah, that's so true. I've been on the receiving end of those simple explanations so many times.
Really?
Yeah, like when I tried to fix my leaky faucet. And my friend, who's a plumber, tried to explain it over the phone.
Uh-oh.
He was like, it's simple. Just replace this washer.
Huh. Easy for him to say, right?
Exactly. So much easier said than done.
And that's why shared understanding is so important.
Shared understanding.
When we use Occam's razor, we have to make sure everyone's on the same page.
About what simple actually means.
Exactly. Otherwise, it's like we're speaking different languages.
Yeah, one person thinks they're being clear, while the other person is totally lost.
Exactly. And there are even some fields where simplicity has different meanings.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, in physics, simplicity might be about elegance and explanatory power.
Okay.
But in engineering, it might be about efficiency and ease of implementation.
So we need to be mindful of the context
For sure.
and how different fields define and value simplicity.
Absolutely. And it's also super important to be aware of the danger of overuse.
Overusing Occam's razor?
Yep.
How's that even possible?
Well, if we try to apply it to absolutely every situation,
Yeah.
we run the risk of dismissing explanations
Okay.
or phenomena that are complex but are still valid. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Ah, I get it.
Sometimes things just are inherently complex,
Yeah.
and we need to embrace that complexity to really understand them.
So it's all about finding that balance.
Balance, yeah.
Using Occam's razor to guide our thinking, but
Yeah.
not letting it become this rule that blinds us to the nuances of the world.
Exactly. It's a tool for clearer thinking, more efficient thinking,
Yeah.
but it shouldn't replace careful observation, evidence-based reasoning, and a willingness to acknowledge complexity when it's really necessary.
That's a great point.
Okay.
So we've explored the razor itself, seen how it's used in different fields, and even talked about its limitations.
We've covered a lot of ground.
I feel like I have a much deeper understanding of Occam's razor now.
And that's what makes it so powerful. It's not just some concept to memorize. It's a way of looking at the world.
It's like we've upgraded our mental toolkit.
I love that analogy. But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
what's the one key takeaway? The one thing you want listeners to walk away with today?
The most important thing to remember about Occam's razor.
The most important thing is this. Occam's razor is a tool,
Okay.
not a rule.
A tool, not a rule.
Got it. It helps us cut through the clutter, focus on the essentials,
Yeah.
but it shouldn't stop us from appreciating the richness and complexity of the world around us.
Beautifully put. It's like a compass
Oh, I like
that can help us navigate.
Yeah,
But we always need to look up and see the full landscape.
love that.
So, listeners, I have a little challenge for you this week.
A challenge, I like it.
See if you can notice Occam's razor in action.
Ooh, yeah.
You might be surprised how often it pops up.
Oh, I bet. In everyday life, even.
Exactly. You'll start seeing it everywhere.
Like where?
In the news, conversations, even your own decision making.
That's so cool. It's like a whole new way of seeing things.
It really is. And making more informed choices.
Better choices, yeah.
And the best part,
What's that?
now you have the knowledge to spot it.
We've given them the tools.
Right. To
Right.
understand its strengths, its limitations, and to use it effectively.
Who knew a 14th century friar would be so helpful today?
Right. His ideas are still relevant centuries later.
The power of a simple but profound idea.
On that note, we'll leave you to ponder the elegance of Occam's razor.
Keep those minds sharp.
Until next time, keep diving deep.